So before I start, I do want to mention something very specific. First and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you for all of the amazing support over the years. Currently, we are within what I would consider the final stretch towards 100,000, which may not seem like a big deal, but for myself, it has been a pretty massive goal to try and achieve since I started doing YouTube and making content. It's definitely not the main reason why I do it, but one that I've always said that I've wanted to accomplish. And knowing that we are so close thanks to all of you is a very humbling thing. It's something that I'm extremely thankful for every single day, and I couldn't be more happy to create content that hopefully you can all enjoy. Whether you've been around since Tokyo Ghoul, Attack on Titan, Chainsaw Man, Kaizen, or just randomly found me through a one-off video that I've done, I appreciate you all, and I am deeply thankful for the amount of support that I get. I shall work my hardest to continue forward and hopefully not to disappoint. The goal for this year is 100,000, but a personal goal of mine is hitting it before July, as that's when my birthday is, and we are somewhat on track to try and smash it out. I gotta try and do bigger and better videos to kind of justify that massive increase, so hopefully it's something that I can try and smash out as best as possible, but regardless, 100,000 this year is definitely on my list to tick off. Funny enough, it's not my biggest motivation though. For me, the biggest thing that keeps me going and drives me to continue to make content is being remembered for the series that I talk about. It sounds rather weird to say out loud, but there is no better feeling for me. Having my name remembered alongside the series that I've poured so much time and passion and attention to detail into, for series that are very close to my heart that I try and do the best content I can for, and knowing that a big portion of the community for those series consider me a go-to person for content surrounding it is something that I can't even explain and how it makes me feel. It is well and truly one of the best feelings. It's something that continuously drives me to do better and to make better content and to refine everything as much as possible, because you deserve it. You deserve the best content that I can hopefully produce, and hopefully it's worthy. Tokyo Ghoul was an eye-opening experience, but it's quickly traversed over to Attack on Titan, Chainsaw Man, and now even portionally Jujutsu Kaisen, and knowing that even just a fraction of my name is mentioned alongside those series is very weird to comprehend. For me, it's almost a bigger accomplishment than 100,000 subs, but regardless, I am extremely and deeply thankful to all of you for that. It means a lot to me, and I will continue to work as hard as I can to make the best possible content that I can, because that is what you deserve. With all of that said, I thought I'd try something a little bit different. A lot of you have been asking about my favorite manga, my top 10 list, and while I don't necessarily have a ranked numerical top 10 list, I do have favorite manga or series, and it seems a massive percentage is very interested in what is my cream of the crop. What do I consider some of my favorite series of all time? And I guess it's a pretty good gauge on what I truly enjoy. What type of series do I genuinely fall in love with? So that's what we're gonna do. To preface the entirety of this, I've most likely forgotten a lot. I've read and watched a lot of different things, and most likely I'm going to be leaving stuff out. They are also not ranked at all in any order. I don't really care much for ranking series in a top 10 format, so whatever way I talk about them, they're all equal in some regard. However, with that said, the first series is probably the most memorable for me. One that genuinely kind of hurt me to my core, and I consider a genuine masterpiece. Something that could most likely never be topped by any other series within this medium or within this same format, and that is Oyasumi Punpun. If you have tried to read this series, or if you've unfortunately experienced anything within this series, you know just how hard-hitting and authentic it can truly be. Even if you haven't experienced anything within it, it still can be a difficult thing to read. For me, it is easily the most memorable piece of media that I've consumed. Something that is so realistic and heartbreaking and tragic, and everything about how it was handled is something that I truly love. It's probably easy to say that it is a series that has changed my life. Also, an even bigger reason why I don't think I can actually talk about it. One, because I believe I can't do it justice, and two, it means way too much to me where I feel my perception of it is skewered. Probably safe to assume that no other series will affect me the same way Oyasumi Punpun did, and it's the reason why I consider it one of, if not my most favorite manga of all time. It's something that I feel like everyone should read if they feel comfortable doing so, and it becomes an experience and a memory you will never forget. The second one I have is A Trail of Blood, also known as Blood on the Tracks. Back to back, you can probably already tell what type of series that I'm genuinely into. Ino Asano with Oyasumi Punpun and Oshimi Shuzo with A Trail of Blood, two of the most iconic writers within the industry that focus heavily on emotional and mental health, how authentic that it's actually portrayed. A Trail of Blood / Blood on the Tracks is probably one of the most surreal experiences you can get, and something that is very intoxicating and overwhelming and captivating and just memorable. It is viciously eerie, brought to life in such a suspenseful and breathtaking type of way. Undoubtedly, I would 100% recommend, consider it a must read. And this series is known as The Horizon, and it's more of a recent one, and it's not even a manga, it's a manhwa or a webtoon, whatever you want to call it. And it is definitely an experience that I have not forgotten. It quickly became one of my favorite series just based on the concept alone and how it was kind of introduced. To put simply, it is a war story focusing on two children. It is very heavy. It shows the after effects of war and how it treats children within it, how they try to survive through a lawless landscape. And if you ever want your heart ripped out and torn into pieces, this is the series for you. It's definitely more of a visual storytelling experience, which it is extremely graphic. There is a minimal usage of words and dialogue, so everything is kind of just experienced within the motion, within the artwork and the beauty of it, which makes it extremely enthralling and something that just has to be experienced. Keeping on track with webtoons and manhwas, we have Bastard. This was a surprise because it was the second manhwa or webtoon that I ever read. I went from Sweet Home to Bastard, and they're actually done by the same author and artist, and I was completely blown away on just how incredible it truly was. Obviously, my love for mature, psychological, borderline realistic stories definitely shines through, if you haven't already noticed. Bastard was such a pleasant surprise and a great introduction into webtoons. If you're into serious stories or have read any of the previous ones that I've mentioned, I would 110% recommend Bastard. It is what I consider to be a must read for the webtoon or manhwa community if you're comfortable reading that stuff. Jumping back to manga, we have Berserk. This may be a surprise to people because I don't think I've ever really talked about Berserk, but I consider it a classic. Berserk is extremely well handled. It is iconic for a very good reason. How the characters are handled, how the theme, the concepts, everything that goes into it is very beautiful and masterfully weaved together. I wish it was something that Miura felt comfortable in continuing and wanting to push it out as much as possible, but just the journey now, the experience that you get from it is unlike any other and easily worthwhile. Now, surprisingly, this series is also pretty low-key, and it's known as Holy Land. Now, I'm not necessarily into fighting manga all too much, but Holy Land was definitely different. Considering it wasn't necessarily the main focus, it was obviously a big portion of the storytelling experience, but a lot of it was fueled by the mental state the individual was within and the location that surrounded them. It's very late-night, gang-orientated, and trying to fight to survive. So learning new martial arts, learning how to defend yourself, learning how to fight within this gang-orientated lifestyle, and if you're into fighting manga and you haven't read Holy Land, you probably should. So I'm going to couple these two together because I've already talked about this author before, Oshimi Shuzo. We have Happiness and Flower of Evil. If you've ever wanted to experience some of the most mentally bending and emotionally manipulative storytelling, Oshimi Shuzo is definitely the first place to go. The story that this person is able to conjure up and capture in such a realistic and authentic type of way while bringing such severity and emotional connection to all of these individuals within it is one of the most impressive things that I have seen, because he is able to do this with every single manga that he produces. And it shows because within my favorite series, he has 3 slots: Trail of Blood, Happiness, and Flower of Evil. I definitely recommend all 3 of them, but Happiness is a little bit more on the simplistic side, focusing on vampires and how that blends into humanity and mental health. And Flower of Evil is straight mental and emotional manipulation at its finest. So this one is surprisingly also rather recent, and it's Vinland Saga. Genuinely surprised that it took me so long to read this series. I think it has probably one of the most incredible main character developments and growth within the medium. And I think it's one of the first stories that I've read personally that focuses so deeply on PTSD and how going through the motion to try and overcome it, try and overcome those fears and everything that you've been through, how it warps and and skewers your personality over time, and trying to be a better person within a world that is surrounded by death and destruction, obviously the Viking era, is a very difficult thing to do. As much as you can watch Vinland Saga's anime, which is pretty good, I would more so recommend reading the manga. It is absolutely beautiful and an experience in itself. The last two for me probably shouldn't be much of a surprise. Attack on Titan and Tokyo Ghoul. Two series that I hold extremely close to my heart, and I've made an endless amount of content on them both. They are such beautiful stories that are completely different to one another, but tell things in such a memorable way. Attack on Titan is something that I consider to be a classic. It will be remembered for an extremely long time, and while I'm still dirty about Tokyo Ghoul's anime adaptation, it's something that's very personal to me and for a lot of people that have read it. I don't think I'll ever forget what both series have done for me and how they've evolved so gorgeously into masterclass experiences. So this is it. These are some of my favorite unknown quote-unquote manga that you probably didn't know much about. I assume you could probably guess a lot of these pretty easily, but some may surprise you. There's definitely more here that I've 100% forgotten about, so I apologize in advance. But the real question is, if you have read any of these series, or if you plan to, or what do you consider some of your favorite series of all time? Stuff that you keep close to your heart, stuff that unforgettable and so memorable, stuff that provided an experience that is unmatched. There's a lot of different options. They don't have to be ranked, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Drink plenty of water, and I will see you within the next one. Goodbye.